I'm Vinny with Purmotion. I'm sitting here today with Simeon Castile. Simeon is the head trainer here. He's been training me for a couple years. He's taught me a lot about fitness in general, but even more about Purmotion. If there's anybody that can answer the questions that I have today, it's this guy right here. So the first question that I have is, how has your mindset changed during the transition from the traditional ways of training to the Purmotion way of training?
Well, I would probably have to say the first thing that my mind had to get adapted to was the workload.
Okay.
The workload first, and then the movement second, because the workload was just, I think, higher than anything that I had experienced up to this point, especially when it just comes to strength training. And what I mean by workload is just the amount of reps, the volume of the workout. Just coming from traditional settings, playing football, being my background, you'll get under the bench and, you got 3 sets of 10 or something like that. And I mean, when George first started training me, everything that we did was like 50 reps. And it just blew my mind. I was like, dude, we're doing 50 reps of chest press, or whatever it was that we were doing. So the workload and then the movements were just totally different than anything that I'd ever experienced. And so that kind of took a little bit for me to get adjusted to. And it was really just the movements were a lot more natural and athletic. And so my mind just had to get used to doing these athletic movements under load.
Yeah, and that's something that I feel the same about. We look at the workout that we have, or at least I do every day that you write out,
Yeah.
and if you do that whole workout right, like you're supposed to, you and I both know that it is a lot of volume.
Yeah,
So, what would you say, what are the limitations of traditional lifting versus the limitations, if any, of the Purmotion way of training?
I would say probably the biggest limitations from the traditional lifting, especially what I grew up doing, basically the 3 main movements, like for football, big bench press, squat, and then either like deadlift or power cleans. The limitations are most of the stuff that we did for football was axial and sagittal. There wasn't a lot of rotation. There wasn't a lot of unilateral work. So I think that it just it limits you basically from being the athlete that you could be by not including rotation or working in all of the planes of motion and everything just being sagittal and axial.
Okay.
That one.
So, your programming here.
Mhm.
All right, you just touched on the fact that there wasn't any rotation in the traditional ways of training. How is this programming more inclusive than others? So if you can just add maybe a couple
Okay.
more
I got
things
you,
to
I
that.
got you. Oh man, the programming, the way that we program the workouts here, over a course of a week, you are going to train your muscles in pretty much every direction. That's how it's more inclusive than the traditional ways that I was used to lifting. Like, just take your lower body for example. The traditional lifts most of the time are just, you can do back squat and front squat, but it's still all axial, just straight up and down. All right, you don't have any forward traction or backward traction or building your legs laterally. So, for lower body, that would be a way that we are all more inclusive. We train your legs in every direction. So your upper body, you have to push and pull, obviously. So you can push pull from all of these different vectors. So you can push pull from vertical, diagonal ascending, horizontal, diagonal descending, and then vertical but straight down. So we try to cover all of those different vectors. So our programming includes all of those different directions, and of course rotation. And that, I think, one of the biggest things that separates us is the core strength that you develop from the exercises that we have, I think it's second to none. And a lot of the core movements that we do benefit you because you're on your feet, where you live life and play sports. You don't really do anything in any sport that I know of, sitting on your butt, rotating.
Poker.
Yeah, that is a sport now, I guess. But yeah, man, I mean, the core exercises that we include in our programming, they really take your core strength and rotational strength to the next level.
Okay, so that kind of ties into the next question. Is that something that you're hearing from your clients too? So how do the Purmotion clients feel after the first couple months of training, and what would you say, given your experience up until this point, brings them back on a consistent basis?
I would probably say I would break it up into two categories of clients.
Okay.
Because obviously we train athletes, people who are playing sports right now, and then we have your everyday people who maybe were athletes but they're not playing sports right now. They just want to be healthy, maybe lose some weight, get some more energy, what have you. So you have those two different client bases. So I would say for the athlete, I think what keeps them coming back is seeing a direct correlation from what they do here to their on the field performance. They see what the movements and the strength that they gain from our training transferring to them performing better on the field. That's the whole reason that you train in the off season, to see your performance. Well, number one, to obviously prevent injuries, and then to see your performance improve. I mean, that's the whole reason you train. So I think obviously that is the biggest thing for the athletes, and then I think for just your normal everyday clients that are just living life and trying to increase their capacity for living, I think the biggest thing with them is just the way they feel. And as you get older, I've had clients just tell me, man, they just don't want to put all of the unnecessary joint stress on their elbows, their shoulders, their back, their knees. Yeah. So what keeps them coming back is that they get a great workout, but without their joints hurting.
Yeah.
So they love that. I mean, obviously we're working the muscles, but the joints, man, they leave here feeling good.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this, and this is something that I hear sometimes, just from people that haven't been here before.
Mm-hmm.
But why in your opinion,
Mm-hmm.
why do people think from the outside, like people who have never trained here before,
Yeah.
why do they think that we can't or we don't lift heavy?
Oh man. Yeah. I don't.
Because that's a big one.
Yeah,
that's a big one.
You know what I think it is? I think it's when you hear the word functional training, I think people just automatically think like, oh, you're just using a bunch of bands and whatnot, and it's just like a bunch of body weight stuff. And I think that they get the wrong idea of what we mean by the word functional. When we mean functional, we just mean that everyone can do it, from a 10-year-old all the way up, into a 70-year-old. You know what I'm saying? So the word functional means that you should be able to do it no matter where you fit in that age range.
And each movement has a purpose.
Yes,
Yeah.
and so I think that's the biggest misconception about. I mean, just like you said, that we don't lift heavy. I think the word functional, it kind of throws them off, and I don't really. I mean, I use it, but I like to, use the term athletic lifting.
Yeah.
And that's because everyone is an athlete. Obviously, just God has deposited more athleticism into some people than others.
That's true.
But everybody,
You being one of them, right?
Everyone is an athlete, though. Our bodies are all built to do the same thing. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know, man, but I hear that a lot too. I think that's one of the biggest lies out there, because we lift and we lift heavy, just like I mean, dude, we can load it up as heavy as anybody wants to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, if you're watching this video, we lift and we lift heavy. Okay?
This
If you
guy
don't
is.
believe us, then come on out and we'll give you a try.
So going more into the same subject right there, what would you say is the biggest difference in terms of the way you feel while you're doing it between a conventional, your standard barbell deadlift or power clean, and a dual Renegade bar deadlift or power clean.
I mean, the biggest thing is just your joints, man. You know, the racking position for a power clean traditionally, where the bar is, you know, right here. I mean, it just hurts. Like, I mean, your body, you're not strong. Like, there's nothing else that you do in life where you're in this position right here, besides a power clean with an Olympic bar. And so for me, I mean, when you use the dual Renegade bars, the racking position is in a neutral position right here. So all of your joints are in alignment, and it takes all of the nagging little pains out of it. So you can actually concentrate on the triple extension that you're supposed to be achieving in the first place. So you can concentrate on doing the exercise and not having, oh, my wrist hurts or my shoulder and all this. So you can actually concentrate on exploding up from the ground and building that triple extension from, you know, the ankle, knees, and hips that you're trying to accomplish in the first place. Because the whole reason that you do a deadlift or a power lift is to build that power from the ground up. Not, I mean, having to worry about catching a bar with 250 pounds on it right here.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it just takes all of that out of it.
It just takes all the technicalities out of it.
Yes, and I mean, dude, a power clean is hard in itself, technique-wise, to learn.
And it's hard here.
Yes, I mean, it's, but the way that we do it is a lot more simple than, you know, trying to teach
the form.
As compared to a traditional power lift or power clean to the way we do it. I mean, I can teach someone who's never done a power clean in about 5 minutes how to do one on the dual Renegade bars, as opposed to people who've been lifting all their life still trying to perfect the technique of a traditional power.
That was a big problem for me in college. Like, I just never, when they were wanting to do power cleans, like, everybody would be like, dude, you're doing it wrong, you're doing it wrong. And I just look at them, I'm like, what do you mean? Like,
it's hard. I mean, power cleans, like, I mean, powerlifting is a sport in and of itself.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I mean? So it takes a long time to get the technique right, to be able to execute that movement efficiently.
Yeah. All right. Well, so this is kind of off topic, but I mean, anybody that walks in here and they see Simeon, they know that, like, he's ripped. You know what I mean? They're like, how do we get ripped like this guy?
All right.
How does he do it? What's his secret? So like, what is your best advice without going into any kind of scientific detail or diet plan or anything? What's your best advice on nutrition?
Oh, this is an easy one. I basically just tell people like this. Look, well, I'd say I'll probably break it down into 3 things. Number 1, I say if God made it, then more than likely you're okay to eat it.
Okay.
If man
I've never heard that one. That's a good one.
If man made it, more than likely you should probably stay away from it. That just means, like, the processed foods that are out there, fast food and all of that. Like, so I mean, it's not really that hard. You know what I'm saying? People just need to really have more discipline, like, about what they eat. So, I mean, I don't have to tell you, hey, Vinny, you come here, you do an hour workout. Hey, you don't need to go to Taco Bell and get 2 chalupas after you know what I'm saying? I don't need to tell you that.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Most people know, like, dude, that's not good for me. But it's just having the discipline to, choose the healthier options over the bad ones. So, like I said, if God made it, more than likely you're good to go. If man made it, more than likely you probably need to stay away from it.
I think that's a great answer.
And so then the other one I would say is the quality of food and the quantity of food.
Okay.
Yeah, so basically the quality is, how fresh is it, what the nutrition in the food, and then the quantity is how much are you eating. You see what I'm saying? So
because you could be eating really good.
Yeah, but you just eat too much of it. You know what I'm saying? So those 2 things, quality and quantity. So obviously you want to be conscious of the quality of your food and then the quantity, but most people make the mistake, they don't choose, I don't know how to say this. All I'm saying is basically people mess up in both areas.
Okay, so they're
Quality
eating
of
too
food,
much.
they're eating bad food, and then they're eating too much of it.
Okay.
That's all I'm trying to say.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
So those three things: if God made it, eat it; if man made it, stay away from it. Then the quality of food and the quantity of food.
All right. So last but not least, so you've been in the fitness industry for
2.5, almost 3 years.
almost 3 years.
Yeah, here.
Here, and I mean, as we both see, but probably more so you see it. There's a lot of competition
Yeah.
in the fitness industry. So what motivates you as an instructor to keep going on a daily basis? Do you have your own personal vision, or do you really believe in it? Believe in Purmotion the way that you guys train here so much that that's what gets you out of bed every day? What's your biggest motivating factor?
I think it's a combination of a couple things. Number one is that I honestly believe that God put me on this earth to help people.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? So, and I feel like this is an avenue to where I can. I think I have the personality for it. Just being able to interact with people and just help people feel good about themselves. And accomplish their goals, whatever they may be. So I feel like that's the first one, and then the second one is just that, yeah, man, I've tried so many different training regimens, and I honestly believe it with all my heart that Purmotion is the best, and and I want more people to be exposed to it.
Yeah.
And so obviously, it's just like when you go see a movie, all right? Or you go see a movie that you just like, you be like, you tell your buddies, you like,
They gotta go
dude,
see it
yeah,
too.
Dude,
Yeah.
you got to go see this movie. Or when you go to a restaurant and you have a good steak, like I love steak. So I'll call my brother like, dude, I went to this such and such spot, man, you have got to try this steak. I feel it's the same way about Purmotion. Like, man, I want everybody to experience it because I really do feel like it's the best.
Okay. Thank you, Simeon, for your
man.
time. I appreciate that.
Yeah, dude, no problem.
You just heard it from the man himself, Simeon Castillo. He's been in the trenches here for the last 3 years. Like I said, if there's anybody that knows what's going on here in terms of how to train, how we train, this guy right here has the answer. So check us out on Facebook, Purmotion Inc., Instagram, Purmotion Official, and YouTube, Purmotion. I'm Vinny Rodriguez with Purmotion, and we'll see you guys on the next episode.
Yep.